Hey everyone, welcome back to Thoughts from a Bookworm. Today we're going to be talking about the second book in the Lunar Chronicles, which is Scarlet. I'm wearing my red hoodie in honor of Scarlet. I have mentioned before that Scarlet is one of my least favorite characters, but I still really enjoyed this book. It did take me a little while to get into it. I wasn't a fan. I didn't like that the book opened with a new character. I feel like it would have been safer to open with Cinder, somebody that we're more familiar with and we're already attached to, but it is what it is. I did very quickly become interested in Scarlet, in Wolf, in what was going on with them. I love that we get to meet Thorn in this book. Thorn, to me, was the redeeming aspect of it. When I first read this, I don't know what my brain was doing, but I either misread or just totally skipped over when Cinder first meets Thorn and she's like reading his stats on her retina vision. And she's like, oh, he's 20 years old. I missed that. So I had no idea how old he was. So I immediately envisioned this fat, paunchy, like balding guy. And I was so irritated that like this character was being brought in. I was like, oh, he's obviously the comic relief, but why? Like, he's so irritating. I was like, Cinder, if you bring him with you, I'm gonna be mad. And then she brought him with him. I don't know at what point I clued in that he was young, because by the time I got to Cress, I wasn't weirded out that he was interested in Cress. It wasn't weird. I just don't remember. I honestly don't remember at what point I was like, oh, wait, he's young. It must have been halfway through Scarlet or what, or maybe shortly after. Maybe I read the introduction again. I honestly don't know. But I was not a fan of Thorn when I first read it because I thought he was like this old fat dude. And I was like, why? But I quickly fell in love with him. He's my baby now. Sorry, girls. He's mine. But we're getting an alternate point of views, which is really cool. And again, going back to just the good writing style of Marissa Meyer, I was invested in both of them. Even though I wasn't a fan of Scarlet and you know, it's kind of like, meh, she's a little tough, a little rough for me. I was still very much interested in what her and Wolf were doing and what Cinder and Thorn were doing. I liked that Cinder kind of has the Cinder and Thorn parts are slower. Like, there's not a whole lot of plot that's going on with them. It's mostly them just trying to hide and stay on the ship and stay unobserved. There's not really a whole lot of plot happening with them, but we still got some sweet moments of Cinder thinking about Peony. We got some fun, you know, Thorn being snarky and flirty with Cinder and Cinder shooting him down, which was really funny. And then we get to Wolf and Scarlet. That's where most of the plot is happening. That's where we're kind of clued in for the first time about the soldier army, the Wolf, the Queen Levana's soldier army. You know, we find out toward the, you know, last half that Wolf is one of her soldiers. That whole part, to be honest, was a little bit confusing because I wasn't sure if Wolf was actually working for Levana trying to trick Scarlet, or if he did run away initially, met Scarlet, and then changed his mind and did decide. I don't know, it was a little bit unclear. The whole, speaking of Michelle Benoit being kidnapped, the whole Ran, is that his name? Ran, the brother? Eating the grandmother at the end, like, that was weird. I did not see that coming. I genuinely didn't. Like, I knew Little Red Riding Hood, you know, story thing, and that's what happened, that the big bad wolf ate the grandmother, but I was not expecting this human person to eat another human person. Scarlet and Wolf's story is more along the lines of Beauty and the Beast, and Scarlet and Rand's story is more along the lines of Little Red Riding Hood. Scarlet was the one out of four that it didn't really have a whole lot to do with Little Red Riding Hood, which I'm fine with. It's, like I said in last week's episode, I don't really think calling this series a fairy tale retelling is a just characteristic of the series. So, okay, we're Scarlet, you know, her name is Scarlet, Red, Little Red Riding Hood. Okay, there we go. Wolf, there's Wolf mentioned. The wolf eats the grandmother. Okay, that's pretty much it. That's why I wasn't really expecting for Scarlet's grandmother to actually be eaten. I'm not opposed to fast romances. I don't like spice, but I'm not opposed to fast romances. And this didn't feel fast. Scarlet and Wolf, like throughout the course of the book, it didn't feel fast. But I think Scarlet even at one point like thinks to herself like, oh my gosh, we've only known each other a day. Which, to be honest, coming from an aspiring author, to be able to write an entire book in the span of 1 or 2 days is really impressive. Like that, because when Scarlet said that, it was like, oh shoot, she's right. Like it's literally only been 2 days that they've known each other. This whole book has happened over the course of 2 days. That like surprised me. And like I said, I'm not opposed to fast romances. It didn't feel fast to me, but when she mentioned that, it was like, oh wow, it really only has been 2 days. I love Wolf so much. I can totally like visualize him in my head as just this big, like tall guy, broad guy, but who's just very like shy, quiet, introverted, polar opposite of Scarlet. I love Wolf so much. I really do love all the Lunar Chronicle men, but Wolf holds a special place in my heart because there's just something so endearing about a guy who's that big in size and stature, who's quiet or maybe a little unsure of himself. He's just like so sweet, and as his and Scarlett's relationship develops, he is very sweet with her, and I do love their whole like alpha dynamic. I think that is just so precious. Like it makes me want to like find a guy who's read the Lunar Chronicles so that like he can call me his alpha and I can call him my alpha, because like that's just so cute. I love Wolf so much. So like I said, there's not a whole lot of plot happening with Cinder and Thorn. It's mostly them escaping, Cinder practicing her glamoring ability. She glamours Thorn in the cell like a little bit too much because it leaves her winded. It leaves Thorn disoriented. She glamours her cyborg hand to look like a human hand. She thinks, oh my goodness, this could literally change everything. Like I wouldn't have to be a freak anymore. She still has Eco's personality chip, which she plugs into the ship, which I thought was really funny. And then Eco's whole personality is just so cool. I honestly wish that Eco would have become a human at the end. Like that would have been like a Pinocchio type of retelling. You know, she became a real human. That would have been really cool, but that's okay. And then, of course, Adri and Pearl have to ruin everything by going to Kai. Adri somehow, this woman has never showed an ounce of intelligence in her life. Somehow she's able to piece together that when Cinder ran from the quarantine, she was there visiting Peony. She said this doesn't belong to you, it belongs to her family. Again, somehow Adri connects the dots that Cinder is talking about Peony's ID chip. That's how the authorities are able to track Cinder and Thorn, which then I'm assuming is how the Lunars were able to track them, because a couple wolf men, they find Cinder and Thorn. There's this big brawl. Thorn gets like bit on his shoulder. His beloved leather jacket is ripped. Like just so much happens because of that chip. Cinder destroys it. She throws it out into the field as they're leaving Peony behind. Like it's just so sad. It was just very sad, and I like again that we see the genuine love that Cinder has, which Adri has always said, oh, you're a machine, you're not capable of love. And it's like, no, she really is capable of love. Look how much she loved her little sister. It's interesting to see at the end when both parties converge, when Scarlet registers like, oh my gosh, Cinder is Princess Celine. She's the one who my grandmother died for. She's the reason all this is happening. Like, there's, like, this better be worth it. This girl better be worth it. Like, this girl better be worth it. And Scarlet kind of almost, like, for a split second wrestles. It seems like she wrestles with this feeling of, like, resentment. Like, she should be mad at Cinder, but then no, she shouldn't, because her grandmother saw something in her that was willing to risk her life for it. I do really want a Carswell jacket. After reading Scarlet and even Cress, where there's just so much mention of the jacket, I do really want a Carswell jacket now. So that's everything for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video if you want, subscribe if you want, so you never miss an episode.